Good morning. This is Eli here, and today I just want to share something quickly with you guys about resumes. I get to help a lot of people that are trying to find their first good linear income job, their first real career move, mostly in engineering, but also sometimes outside of that. And I see the same pattern happen so often that I want to share that with you guys a little bit and identify 4 things that you should be thinking about when you're writing the experience section of your resume. And so that's what we'll talk about this morning. Let me first draw up, this will kind of preface it. If you've ever read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that same author, Kiyosaki, he talks about something called the cash flow quadrant. And when we're talking about resumes today, we're talking about this top left section where you're earning money because you're paid hourly or you're paid a salary. You're earning money per time. Down here is where you start your own, and now you're earning money per effort. The top right is you've built a system that you manage and it pays you out. That M is way out of the way. We'll see if we can grab that little guy and move him back. That's better. So you built a system, and then the bottom right is you're just basically living off of investments. Now, most people, when they start, they're really just looking to go from here into this spot right here. 95% of people make money on the left side, and it's called linear. Or linear is a good word. We'll say linear and then leveraged over here. Sometimes they'll call this passive income. And the cost to be involved is low up here. The cost to and the effort is a lot higher down here. So to start your own business, to have enough money initially to live off of your investments, those things cost a lot of money. The pattern that I see is that people will go from college or early in their life to getting their first real career job, and then after a while, if they're brave enough and they feel so inclined, they'll go start their own. And if that is successful, they kind of migrate from being the person who does the work to the person who is training others to do the work, and they have a system. And they're paid because they're the CEO or they're the founder or the owner or whatever it is. It's like they've built up royalties. If they become really, really wealthy, then they can live off of their investments. Now, most people in this top left quadrant over here, they have maybe a 401k that they have, but it's not enough to live off of. So they're really not in any quadrant other than the top left. Hopefully that gets bigger and they can transition to that bottom right quadrant if they don't bother to accelerate their career and go through these moves themselves. One thought before I get into the details of it: 95% of people will not retire. That's the sad truth of the time that we live in, and it's interesting to me that number matches the 95% who are living off of a linear income or an income that they're constantly turning that crank for. My focus personally right now is over here, building a system, finding something that will pay me month after month after month. But for those that are trying to jump into their first linear income job rather than their first leveraged income job, let's talk about the 4 things that you want to have as experience in your resume. And this is more of a mindset when you're writing your resume. So we'll quickly go through those. The first one is you want to say the level that you started at. And the second one is some meaningful difference that you made. I usually combine these into one bullet point on my resume because I don't like it to be too cluttered. The meaningful difference needs to be not in your technical language, but again, in the business kind of language. So you're going to say, we reduced the cost of this part by 20%, or we cut down the time it took us to do this, or we streamlined our engineering processes, and we had, whatever it is, something that you can tell the story in money or time, so they don't have to be the same kind of expert that you are, to understand what you did. That's a big mistake that I see a lot. Just being really wordy in general. The resume should not be a chance to show off, and the interview should not be a chance to show off. It should be a chance to show that you can be a team player, you're supportive, and that you are low risk. And that's what these 4 things here are trying to identify. So meaningful difference. The third one is recognition. Now, and this is in light of that last point. So you might say, look, I did this thing. I was consistent enough that they promoted me to this rank or to this role. I was given an award. I was, encouraged to take on more responsibility, and I did, and I traveled, and blah, 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 right? Whatever it is, something that you did. And then the fourth one is that you left for valid reason. And this is where you lower the risk. I often combine those into a bullet point as well, if it makes sense to. If it feels like it's too much of a stretch, then go ahead and split them out. But you should only have a couple bullet points, 2 or 3 under each job that you've had. Sometimes I'll see 6 or 7, and it's like, wow, they're really stretching that one to try to milk it for all it's worth. And that's bad, because what you want to do is show that, look, it doesn't matter where I've gone and where I've worked. I've made a difference. It's been appreciated, the recognition thing. And then I only left when I got married, or when I had to move off to go to school, or whatever it was, something that they're going to look at and they're going to go, okay, well, that shouldn't happen every 2 or 3 years. So apparently this person sticks around when they have good reason to. And again, the goal here is to show that you can be teachable and that you are low risk. The big deal here is it costs them so much money to hire somebody, and a lot of time and training and effort. And it's not just a money cost or a time cost, it's a cultural and an emotional cost. If you have a lot of people that are coming into your company and they're leaving shortly thereafter, it's a big, it's just a painful experience to have. And so they're trying to avoid that. And for good reason, they need to avoid that. If you can show this with every, maybe you've got 3 or 4 different jobs prior experience that you've had, and you show those 4 things under each one, what you're doing is you're establishing a pattern, and that pattern is helping them to realize that you are low risk. So give that a shot. Good luck, and let me know how it works. Thanks.